your first and last name, or make that your display name your first and last name, so that we can get you counted for attendance, that would be great.
Yeah, that really does help. We really appreciate it. Yeah, but with that, anybody else who's going to join, they can join a little bit later. No worries. But yeah, this is the Remote Jobs Workshop. Thanks for being here. Welcome. Yeah, so we'll kind of go ahead and get started with the agenda and everything. First off, we'll go through a couple of team introductions and things. Go through some resume refreshers over the career readiness workshop, as well as the tech communications workshop. A little bit on web presence and personal branding, actually applying for remote jobs and sort of getting a better success rate there. Technical interviews, sort of the reality of remote work, and just a general wrap up and Q&A. There will be some Q&A throughout the talk today, but in general, if you have questions, just drop them in the chat if you don't mind. If we stop for a Q&A, just raise your hand. That way we know who's asking the question. Keeps a little bit easier to keep track of, things like that. In general, if you aren't asking a question, just please keep muted. Keeps things a lot simpler for us. So really appreciate that. But yeah, so here's the careers team. So I am David York. I'm one of the technical project managers. So me, along with Danny Morton, we really help students to continue to build really great technical projects after they've graduated. Danny is going to be my co-presenter today. So hey, Danny.
Hey, everybody, how you doing?
The manager of the careers team is Shannon Sheehy. So she sort of does a lot of the event organization, things like that. If you're ever really not sure of who to reach out to, she's a really good person to reach out to, because she'll point you in the right direction. Candy Hall is the technical career coach. She's actually one of our most recent additions to the team, but she is Eastern Kentucky, Northern Kentucky, and Central Kentucky. We'll go over a little bit more on what she does, but you're probably already familiar with the technical career coaches. Jenny Terry is Candy's counterpart, but in the Louisville region. She's also in chat, may answer a couple of questions in chat. So if you see her say something, make sure to say hey. Ali Rippey, who's not on here tonight, is the employer relationship manager. So she really makes sure that all of the employers that we talk with, we kind of build a really good relationship with them, and that's how we're able to refer you whenever you apply to certain jobs, and that's how we're able to get you a little past the applicant tracking systems and get you some preferential treatment sometimes. She's also one of the people responsible for populating the jobs boards in Slack, so a really good person to meet with and know. Yeah, so what does the careers team even do? Careers team does a bunch of things, but resume reviews, mock interviews, and hiring events are some of our main jams. The resume reviews and mock interviews are really done by Candy and Jenny. Those are their main jams. Hiring events are mainly done by Shannon and then Ali. We also give just general advice and insight on leading a really good job hunt, make things a little bit easier for yourself. We'll connect you to hot job leads as often as possible. So there's a couple of ways we do that. The regional jobs channels in Slack, those are really, really important, actually. If you're not a part of those, I'll show you how to join those here in just a second. And then the Tech Careers newsletter. If that name doesn't sound familiar, that's okay. You probably don't get it yet because you haven't graduated. But that's where we send out a lot of our really, really top quality jobs. And then me and Danny focus on helping you to continue building out technical projects, either through pairing you up with nonprofits or help you continue to build your own personal portfolio of work. We really do a lot of effort to make sure you're successful in that way. If you're interested in something like that, let us know. We can answer a few questions for you. One of the caveats is you do have to be a graduate of one of the courses in order to do that. But we can definitely talk about that if that's something you're interested in. offline. That'd probably be a conversation not for here because it may take a while. But with that, Slack channels and how to join them. So easiest way to join the Slack channels are going to be going to the left side of Slack, sort of that left sidebar. You're going to see channels. You're going to click the down arrow, then click manage, and then click browse channels, like I am here on the screenshot on the left. Once you click browse channels, it's going to bring you to a search bar that says all channels. You just type in hashtag or pound jobs, and it will display all of the jobs boards that we have, period. You can join as many as you wish. You can also change the notification settings for the job boards that you join. I would highly recommend doing that. If you're really, really looking for something remote and you join the remote jobs channel, you can change that to, I want to be alerted for every single message that comes in. That is a really good way to sort of be poked to come back and double check the Slack app. That is really important. We do post a lot of really good stuff there, so make sure to join them. But with all of that stuff, sort of preliminary stuff out of the way, I know it was kind of a lot of preliminary stuff. We're going to get in a little bit into non-tech skills for remote jobs. So there are a lot of examples of people getting hired at tech jobs just because of their soft skills and not necessarily really their technical skills. A little bit of the technical skills probably played a part in it, but soft skills are extremely important when looking for technical roles. I know that may sound strange, but it is a lot easier to teach you a technical skill than it is to teach you a soft skill like communication or good time management or something like that. Strong communication skills are extremely important in remote work, just because you're doing a lot of it asynchronously. So you're messaging people really often. You're on video calls a lot, and sometimes the really important stuff can kind of get lost in translation. So it's really important that you have really good communication skills. Same with time management skills; those are really important, and then sort of the ability to work independently without a whole lot of direct guidance. You can bring those things to the table, you're a lot more competitive than some of your peers. And we'll talk a little bit more about that, like specifics on that later. Some really good experience though that lends itself well to remote work, in my experience, is like customer service or sales does really well with remote work. Education, ex-education people do really well in remote work. And same if you have like a specific interest or a specific skill related to what the company does, like music, the arts, literature, social media, design, outdoors stuff, anything like that, really, really helps you to land remote work. But yeah, with that sort of transition into web presence and personal branding.
All right, I'll take it from there. So here we'll talk about our GitHub and our LinkedIn pages. That's going to be our most important web presence there. So when you apply to jobs, people are definitely going to Google you. That's a big thing that I do whenever I'm hiring folks and interviewing. I Google. I want to get to know them as best I can without knowing them. So, I'll Google David and I'll see what he's up to. Beyond these two, I'll probably hopefully find his Facebook and then see that he mountain bikes or something like that and be like, awesome, David does cool stuff that I do. So, that makes him more hireable in my book. But yeah, so we really want to dive into our GitHub and LinkedIn though. So on those, you definitely want to keep them professional. You definitely want to fully fill out those profiles. And beyond that, definitely Google search yourself, see what comes up. If you had an old blog site back in the day and you posted a bunch of crazy stuff because you were a teenager and were super angsty, maybe we get rid of that and delete that. So that's not the first thing that pops up when you Google yourself. And then we get that LinkedIn and the GitHub up top and, showing up. So having a professional image there is super important. And, whenever you're going through the program, you're posting your accomplishments and things like that. That way, when I go online, search you on LinkedIn, I see, oh, you completed Code U. oh, after Code U, you experimented with this, you did this project, you shared it on GitHub, you shared that you made a contribution, you learned this new skill, and it just shows me that you're super interested in this topic and this subject, and you're continuing your education and your growth skills, and makes you much more presentable. And then also, we'll get into it a bit later, but you want to make all those connections with folks on LinkedIn. So whenever you come to these remote workshops, you can add your peers to it, staff. Whenever you're going to the Monday guest speakers, add those folks. That just gets you into their feed more often. And then whenever you're applying for those jobs and they see your name, they're like, oh, hey, David, I know that name. Like, he applied. I see him all the time. He's posted that he's, doing this project, and that definitely aligns with what we're doing. So it makes you more desirable. We're going to look a little bit here at LinkedIn. So if we go to our next slide. So keeping it more professional, here we've got an example with Christina. We've got her nice background banner image, which this super ties in super well with Christina. She kind of branded her whole self around her capstone. So she did a project on the national parks throughout the US. So we got a beautiful national parks photo back there. We've got her portrait also in the woods. It all ties in really nicely. It's all filled out. We've got her school. We can see where she went to school, a nice about section. We see that she's making posts and she's active. We've got that experience, and we've got those projects listed there. And likewise, if we were to go to her GitHub profile, it's a picture of her. It's not just a stock image, so we know it's her. She's got a link back to her LinkedIn. So once you go to one, you can go to the other and flip-flop around. Definitely super important stuff there. So on your profile, definitely list skills, your soft skills, your hard skills, and then any experience that you have that could definitely benefit in those future roles. And it's going to sound silly, but even if it's, you were waiting tables or whatever, those all translate. I get hit up a lot I worked at a tire company, so I have tire companies hit me up all the time. They're like, oh, you develop, like, we've got this system that we're trying to update. Are you interested in getting back into the industry? I'm like, no, thank you. Don't want to be on tires anymore, but thanks for asking. So same thing like that. David mentioned educators. Nursing's really big. We've got a lot of nurses that have, got burnt out, started programming, and now they work for medical companies because they know the industry. Their insights are super important, so they're able to develop, and then they have that firsthand experience. So you're able to tie those soft skills, that actual experience, back into the coding world. So that makes you super invaluable.
Yeah, so with that, where do you actually find remote jobs? It got to be really hard to find remote jobs sometimes. So a couple of really good places are job boards. I will say, I should mention, don't worry about like trying to take notes or screenshots of this or whatever. You will get the slide deck after. You'll also get a list of more job boards, things like that. So no worries there. These are all links. But yeah, job boards are basically collections of jobs from a whole bunch of different organizations and companies. They'll send you a newsletter of jobs if you're interested in that, if you sign up with your email. It's a really good way to find interesting companies that you might want to work for and sort of keep a pulse on who's hiring and sort of when. The only thing is make sure to apply on the company's actual website. If you don't, you run the risk of assembling a really fantastic, excellent resume just for it to, the job to be expired or taken down or whatever whenever you go to actually apply to it. Really annoying. Don't do that. So make sure to actually check on the company's website. Next are recruiting agencies. So there are obviously jobs that a recruiting firm has been hired to fill. So big thing with that, make sure to see if a job has like an in-office or some kind of residency requirement. Sometimes the residency thing matters, sometimes it doesn't. And what I mean by that is I'm sure you've all seen jobs that say like, you have to be in Indiana in order to apply to this. And it's like, well, does that really actually matter? Sometimes no, sometimes it doesn't matter. but sometimes it really does. And so best way to find out is to ask the recruiter who's in charge of that job. It's always worthwhile to set up a call with the recruiter. They'll probably reach out to you first, but if they don't, try to reach out to someone at that company. They'll either have a way to contact them on the website, or they'll have ways to contact them via LinkedIn. Those are really good ways to hit them up. It pays really to work closely with them. They can even submit you to jobs that they think you qualify well for if you give them permission to do that. Another way to find more is through sort of networking events in your area. They usually sponsor those like crazy. So that's a good way to find others. The reason these are listed here is because we have really good relationships with all of these and have worked with them for quite a while. The thing that Danny posted, by the way, in the chat are more job boards and more recruiting agencies and more companies. So those are really good places to look around. But companies, these companies hire 100% remotely, at least in their technical teams that I know of whenever I put them on here. So it could have changed, but I don't think it has. Good ways to find more is figure out where your mentors in class work, see where LinkedIn connections work. If you are meeting people at networking events, things like that, check out where they work on LinkedIn. It could be an interesting way to get a job, especially if somebody was talking about like some really cool, interesting project that they were a part of, and you're like, hey, I sort of want to be a part of that. Their team might be hiring. You never know. It's worth looking it up on LinkedIn. Our Slack is a really good way to find other jobs, but so are other industry Slacks. So like the Bluegrass Developers Guild, if you're in the Lexington area, the Louisville Tech Slack is quite good. Employer websites are obviously very good. Professional associations, chambers of commerce are good as well. LinkedIn is a really good source for that sort of thing. But again, make sure to apply on the company's actual website. Don't just apply via LinkedIn or use the LinkedIn Easy Apply thing. So once you actually find a job, what are the best practices in actually applying for that job, right? So a lot of people say research the company. Well, what does that actually mean? So figure out a few things like what tech do they use outside of the area that you'd be working in? What are they interested in employees? What are sort of the values of the company? Have they done anything interesting or cool recently that's been in the news? It can also give you a really good idea of their culture if you dig around on their website. It's really excellent. That is pretty much the place to find answers to all of those questions. Once you find out that information, put some of those things in your resume that directly align with their values and objectives, and that sort of not only helps you to seem like a really great fit, but it also makes you seem really well informed and like you know what you're doing and you actually really care about the company, which is going to matter to a hiring manager, right? If you've completed relevant projects to a position like that, make sure to put them on your resume. So like a good example would be like a financial data analytics project that tracks like a business's expenses. That would be a really good one for a finance company that you're applying for. So make sure to highlight that. If possible, connect to the person that's actually doing the hiring. So the hiring manager, they'll have like the little purple hiring tag next to their face on LinkedIn. If you can't do that, connect to recruiters, people in the position you're trying to get hired with. That's a really good way to sort of get details about the day-to-day of the job. And if you can figure out sort of other people on the team you have applied for, those are really good connections also, especially for small companies. But those are really good spots. The other thing you can do is you can also reach out to any of us, but especially me or Ali Rippey on Slack. We might have a connection. We're pretty connected. You can also reach out to Danny. He's a quite well-connected person as well. So definitely hit us up. You never know who we might know. So really do that. So kind of boosting your chances and why we asked you to do some of the things that we asked you to do. Use an applicant tracking system friendly resume format. So it's basically just a robot that looks for keywords and phrases that match the job description. If your resume doesn't meet a certain percentage of those keywords, it just rejects it automatically. That's why if you've ever applied to something and got like a rejection literally immediately, like within 5 seconds, it was an ATS that kicked your resume back. It happens to all of us. It's happened to me multiple times. It is what it is. But the reason it happened is because I didn't put in enough skills to meet that quota, right? So make sure to put in as many technologies or skills from the job description as you possibly can, and can without lying. Really make sure to do that. List any kind of remote communication tools that you've used, even if you've only used them personally. It shows that you're comfortable communicating totally online, and you really won't need to be trained on how to use them. And I'm talking like obviously the stuff, the business oriented stuff like Slack or MS Teams, but Discord is really good as well, because that is an online communication tool. Some businesses even use that. Chiefly, Zoom is obviously great. So same with Meet, and you can communicate via GitHub as well. So make sure to list all of those, and mention them. Build LinkedIn connections every chance that you get. You want to have a good network before you need your network. Knowing somebody is a really distant acquaintance can be enough to have them pull your resume, especially these days when there's so many like sort of scammy and spammy applicants to things. If they know who you are, they're like, well, Danny, I know he's a real person. That's at least we can pull him in. He won't try and cheat on the technical interview or whatever. That's really helpful, right? If you meet somebody virtually or in person, even just have a brief conversation with them, reach out to them on LinkedIn immediately. That way you don't forget to reach out to them, because I'm really bad for that. I'll meet a really cool person and be like, wow, that was a great conversation. I'll forget their name, and it's like their name is Steve, and there's like 10 billion Steves, and so I'm like, that's unfortunate. And so sometimes I find them, sometimes I don't, and so you just connect with them immediately. You don't lose the chance to connect with that cool person. Follow companies on LinkedIn. That makes your name come up first whenever recruiters look at the list of applicants. It's a really great tip a recruiter gave us. And practice interviewing. That's the only good way to get good at interviews, is to just do them. Everyone's nervous, but practice shakes off the nerves. Jenny Terry and Candy Hall both do those. So please reach out to them. If you're interested in something like that, it is genuinely very helpful to do mock interviews. It really, really is. So next, we'll talk a little bit about working with recruiters if there aren't any questions. Are there any questions so far, or pretty good? I'll take that as we're good. Yeah, so recruiters. Hey, thanks for the thumbs up. Appreciate it. Internal recruiters are basically just recruiters that work for the company. Pretty straightforward. External recruiters are really common in tech. Those are really common. You're going to run into them a lot. You probably already have run into them a lot. All those recruiters I listed earlier, those are all external recruiters. So basically, they are contracted to fill either higher level roles or a whole bunch of roles for a certain company. They don't work for the company they're hiring for. They work for a recruiting firm. Best advice is tell recruiters what you're looking for. If you really want remote work, and that's a really huge deal breaker for you, let them know that. If you can, and you're willing or able to even compromise, hybrid is almost always an option if you can make that commute. Down the line, you might be able to get remote once you get a little bit more experience, or just once you've worked with that company and they know that you're a good employee and that you're trustworthy. They're like, yeah, that's fine. You can work totally remote. That's no worries. At the end of the day, their job is to meet a quota, and they may not fully take into account what is right for you. So make sure to do your own research. And just because a recruiter recommended something to you doesn't mean it's going to be a great fit. Make sure to read through that job description. Talk about as many skills as you possibly can when you're talking to the recruiter. They may have other roles that you'd be a really good fit for. Kind of keep an open mind. Reach out to recruiters on a regular basis to see if they have anything. Kind of keeps you floated to the top of their inbox. And recruiters are the type of people who get 10 million emails every day. So keeping kind of top of mind is important. And same too, if you run into them at like networking events or anything, talk to them, say, hey. And sort of the last piece of advice on recruiters is be aware of hiring scams. Obviously, they're out there. In general, easiest way to defeat them is if something seems too good to be true, then it probably is. And if you're ever still like, well, I don't know if this company is legit or not, reach out to one of us. We're really good at sniffing out whether something's the real deal or not. We really are. The other thing too, you can also always look up a company, type in scam, and then Reddit. Reddit will definitely let you know if something's a scam. I will say that. But yeah, with that, we'll move into finding tech connections.
All right, David kind of alluded to it earlier, but these tech connections are super important. So easy ways to make them that's not listed here, just getting to know your mentors better and talking with them regularly. You're building a connection there. They work in the industry, don't necessarily get to know them and be like, hey, are y'all hiring? But, get to know them, learn from them. I mentored with the mentors that taught me after I graduated, and we built a nice relationship. They'll hit me up now occasionally for questions at work and vice versa. So that's a lot of fun. Recommend each other for jobs and things like that. So building those connections is super important. So beyond our community here at CodeU, we've got those other regional Slacks that we talked about. So the Cincy one, the Bluegrass, and the Louisville Tech Slacks, all great places to join, get to know people, talk to folks. Discord, we've got a couple listed there. I'm sure if you start digging, you could find hundreds or thousands of different ones. But just getting in there, getting to know folks, finding people with the same interests as you. And typically when we're programming, we always kind of end up in a little niche. So find somebody that likes the same things that you like, and that helps your chances of landing jobs even more because you are specialized into this one little spot and people in that area. So search for other events and groups as well. So search Meetup or Eventbrite. There's conferences. Cool thing about conferences is there's a lot of virtual ones that are free, and then there's a lot of ones in cities that obviously cost money, but a lot of them you can contact them and you can volunteer at the conference. So you might volunteer on a Friday and then get to attend Saturday and Sunday for free. So great things like that can definitely happen there. So just reach out and try to do that. Once you got some experience, you can also apply to speak at them, and they'll get you there. Some of them are going to fly you there for free, and you get to experience the conference that way. So that's really cool. Then we've got things like LinkedIn, just reaching out to those companies, finding other folks that work at companies that you're interested in. There's the different pages. So if you're, in the web dev, join the JavaScript one, be kind of active there, post things, all that good stuff. Add your friends, add your classmates. You'd be surprised at who that actually is in the space. I know I rock climb, and it's surprising the amount of rock climbers that are also programmers. So I make connections all the time without even knowing it. All right, and everything goes well, we land an interview. So we're going to talk about some of the technical interview styles and how that goes. So those do kind of vary. There's different ones. So there's the timed assessments. So usually they'll give you a time limit. Some of them are, once you open it, you've got X amount of time to do it, or they'll send it to you and you've got 48 hours or a week. But there is some kind of time frame there. They're usually not monitored or anything like that. So you'll just go ahead and do it. You'll submit it. Sometimes it's through a site. Sometimes, you're going to do it through GitHub. You might have to fork their repo and then do a PR, things like that. After that, they usually do a video call with you, and they'll discuss the problem, how you went about solving it, why you did it the way you did it, and all that good stuff. There's observed coding. So that's what it sounds like there. You might be on a call. they'll go ahead and send you a link and you'll share your screen, or they'll be able to see what you're typing, and you're just going to go through and code the assignment that they have. There's going to be a time limit, and they just kind of want you to talk through what you're thinking. Some of them, if you're going for like Google or something like that, they're going to expect you to be able to code the answer just right there. But a lot of folks just want to see your thought process, so you can most definitely like pseudocode it out and be like, all right, we want to do a for loop here, find this, and then we would do this, and then we'd store it in a dictionary, yada, yada, yada. So they just want to know your thought process on how you'd go about solving it. We've got the take-home assessment, which is kind of similar to that timed assessment. So again, you're going to be given an assignment to complete, usually a few days to turn that in. When you're done, they'll schedule a call with you again, and they'll have you talk about how you went about solving it. Let's say the difference between the assignment and then the timed assignment and the take-home one is usually the take-home is more of a company problem that they have. So they might replicate one of the issues that somebody had just recently solved. So maybe David got a ticket and he had to patch some code because there's an update in the new Python and something was deprecated. So they'd be like, ooh, that's a great problem to have somebody solve that we can use in an interview. Happens all the time. So they'll take from their experience there on the job and see how you go about solving it. And then my favorite is the Q&A. That's typically when you have more experience. They're able to see some of your code in your repo, and you've got experience on the job, whatnot. So they're just going to have a chat with you and start to understand your level of expertise and what you've experienced. It might be like, David, tell me what kind of technologies you worked with at your old job. And he's like, oh yeah, I used VS Code, we used AWS, had some S2 buckets and this and that. So we'd get a good back and forth, because obviously, if David's working for a competitor or something like that, he can't just be like, oh yeah, let me log into my company machine and I'll share the screen and show you all the things that we do. So in that instance, you got to do the Q&A and talk about it more. So that definitely is a lot of fun. So the next thing is questions for the company. So in the interview, they always ask you if you have questions. And that is one of the most important parts of the interview. With that, you want to know, things like, what does the onboarding process look like? And this is to help you better understand if you're going to be a good fit at the company or if it's a good fit for you. If it's a fully remote position, knowing things like, is there a possibility of having to return to the office? Some companies are remote and don't like it as much, and they want to get back into the office. So knowing that up front is definitely great. How do the teams communicate with each other? That's a good thing there. It's good to know if, maybe they're like, oh, I'll reach out to my team 7 times a day minimally and want to know what they're doing. Then you're like, ooh, you micromanage people. That sounds not great. Or vice versa. It might be, I just reach out once a week and that's it. And if you like some kind of supervision, then you're like, oh, that's not a great fit. Knowing how they mentor their junior employees or what success looks like are all kind of the same there. So, how do they expect you to grow within the first 6 months, the year? When do you get to drop the junior title? And that's not going in with like a chip on your shoulder. It's just like, hey, what does my career path look like at the company? What's your process for this? Some companies don't have one. Small startups and stuff like that may not have anything in line with that at all. But kind of a red flag if you're for a interviewing at a big established company and they're like, we don't know what it looks like for you. You might be in this position for 4 years, and you're like, ooh, I don't love that. And then also, what opportunities do they have for continued learning? Super great there. As you've probably noticed, tech changes week to week, month to month. So you always got to stay on top of that. So knowing what the company offers you as far as that goes, a lot of them will have paid subscriptions to various sites. They'll give you time on the clock to continued learning and things like that. Very often you're migrating from one service to another for whatever reason. Maybe it's got better support for what you do, and you got to learn how that new service works before you migrate into it. So knowing that they're going to get you a class and allow you company time is awesome versus they just kind of expect you to do it on your own time, and good luck. All right. So all that, we get the job. What do we need to work remotely? So the most important thing is a solid internet connection. You are working remotely, so you'll have to be connected to the internet, and you'll have to do video calls and all that good stuff. So good solid internet that's reliable is super important. We got good computer here. So ideally, most companies you work with are going to either provide you with a machine or a budget to buy one. But depending on the place, situation, you might have to use your own. So I'd say 99% of the time they're going to provide you with one, but you'll need a nice computer regardless. Some kind of video call setup. So you'll have to have a microphone and a webcam and then a nice background. Want to keep it professional. And then ideally a dedicated workspace. This becomes super important. When I first started working from home, I was just like, yep, the couch will be great. It'll be nice to work from there a couple days a week. And then you quickly learn that your workspace is your workspace and you don't want to mix the two. Is there something worse than working all day and then like, oh, I'm gonna watch TV, and you're like, I haven't left the couch all day. And then you just feel like you're at work all day. So definitely having a nice space where you can dedicated, do work, close the door, be free from distractions, all that is great stuff.
Yeah, so sort of rolling into like employer expectations, what do employers actually expect from you in a remote position? Biggest thing is self-advocacy. So it's really important to tell others what you need on the job. They don't really see you in person, so it's really easy for them to miss subtle signs that you might need help. Sort of that subtle communication is a little bit out the window. You have to be really intentional with reaching out to people and talking to them. So don't be afraid to ask for clarification if you don't get or understand something, or if you're running into barriers. Same with your like running into a technical problem or have some kind of issue. Let people know as soon as you can. Keep people in the loop. So tell your supervisor and your other team members about what you're up to and what you've accomplished, what you're running into issues with. People really appreciate it when they don't have to wonder whether something's being worked on and finished or not. Speaking of finishing things, please try to finish them on time. If you commit to a deadline, meet it. If you can't meet it, let people know as early as you possibly can. A lot of this is very iterative, and so if you don't get your piece done, that might cause a holdup for somebody down the line. It might not, but it could. No matter what, it shows some accountability, and people really do appreciate that. No one likes to be left hanging. It's really annoying if somebody like said that, hey, I'm going to do this thing, and then they just don't do it. And you're like, wow, I wonder if that's ever going to get done. People shouldn't have to wonder if things are going to get done. If you're always there and you're always doing what you said you were going to do, people have a lot more trust in you, and that lines you up for promotions and working on cooler, more interesting projects. Really pay attention in meetings and be on time. Just because it's a virtual meeting doesn't make it less important. It actually makes it way more important, just because that's some of the few times you're going to have any face-to-face time with your teammates. Have your camera on and you speak up when it's appropriate. And you have updates to share, but just sitting there with your camera on really imparts a level of engagedness that not having it on does not impart. Last thing is be available during work hours. I know that sounds probably pretty obvious to pretty much everybody, but being unreachable during work hours can lead to some questions about what you're actually doing. And that's even if you have a flexible schedule, you should have some level of consistency, or at least some way to tell people that you're not around or that you're available. if they need something. If you use Slack or MS Teams, statuses are a really good way to communicate if you're available or not. Discord also has those if your company ends up using that. But those are really excellent. We all at CodeU use those really heavily. It's really helpful. But yeah, with that, me and Daniel kind of transition into reality of remote work. Yeah, I will say sort of the first note is it isn't for everybody. If you live alone, it can get pretty lonely, especially if you're in a technically focused job that only does stand up like once a week or once a day. Most people are really used to regular social interactions in an office, and you don't realize you miss it until you don't have it. Some people never have that issue at all, but it is something to think about. It can also be really tough if you're a junior person and you run into an issue and there's no immediately obvious person to ask a question to. You really have to sort of learn and figure out who and when to ask questions digitally. Yeah. Another thing too, if you're really bad for like not checking messages or emails or like leaving people on read, remote may not be a fantastic fit for you. Pretty much all the communication is asynchronous and virtual. And it's also really not a good fit if you hate video calls or calls in general. It's really important that you at least tolerate them. You don't have to love them, but you have to tolerate them. It's really easy to get distracted too. Like really easy.
Yeah. Absolutely. With that, like just small things around the house, you get thirsty, you get up and get a drink, you notice that the dishes aren't done. So you start to do the dishes and you're walking by and you're like, oh, there's the sock that my dog drug out. I need to throw the laundry on. And then you do that. And you're like, oh, now I got to fold this load. And next thing you know, it's an hour and a half later and you're like, oops, what happened?
Yeah. The other thing too is if you have other people that live with you, they can have a really hard time remembering that you're at work, and so ask you to do stuff like help them with things or like just chat with you and talk to you and things. That's why having an office door that you can actually shut is super duper helpful, or at least something out of the way is really nice. But especially the door. The door is really good. That's
Yeah.
very helpful. Very
Absolutely.
mhm.
Yeah, then jumping into that next one, it's easy to work outside of hours, especially in this field. Ideally, you're super excited and jazzed up about it, so it's definitely easy to just start working, and then next thing you know, you're like, oh, that's 4 hours after I was supposed to get off, and I solved two of the issues that I had, but we're 4 hours overtime.
Yeah, that's really common. It's a really common problem. And same too, yeah, with like the work will take the amount of time that you give it. It really will. That's why having like a calendar with tasks set up and like actual working hours and stuff, that's super helpful. That's so useful. It is absolutely unreal. That is useful. I will say, Annette actually just asked a question in chat. And since I'm unmuted, I'll go ahead and answer it. But that is so suggestions about how you turn yourself off after working remotely all day. So I guess I'll answer both, like mind and notifications. Don't be afraid to mute your notifications. Do not be afraid to do that. That is very helpful to me. And next thing is for me, having a like fully dedicated working space is unbelievably important for that. So like whenever I leave this office room, I'm done. That's it. It's over. I'm not working anymore. That's it. That is really helpful. It really is. So that's probably the big piece of advice for me. Actually, the big two pieces of advice.
Yep, very much to that. I have an alarm set for end of the day, and then I just shut the computer down and walk away.
Yep.
Usually, even if I'm in the middle of a task, just Command S, Apple shut down. See you tomorrow.
Yeah, that's really the only way to handle it in my experience. You just have to walk away. You really do. It's hard, but you have to just do it. Yeah, so some tips and tricks if you want to go over those, Danny.
Yeah, absolutely. So, like David said, communicate a lot. There is nobody around. So, if you're struggling, having issues, not understanding, definitely communicate that. David kind of alluded to it, where your task is usually in the pipeline with other tasks. So yours is just building up upon other ones. So um, your employer is going to challenge you at times, and they're not doing it to be mean. They're just doing it to help you grow. So if you can identify early that maybe this is too advanced, it's not going to be a detriment to you. It's just going to help you and the team. They'll realize like, oh, okay, David's not quite ready for this, and we can help him, or we can give him the tools or see where he's at, and get you up there. Then we'll jump down to working in your workspace. So find just a spot that works for you, and definitely work there. Try to work there only. Make it comfortable. Get a nice chair, get a desk that's the appropriate height. Like it says, kitchen table and stuff, not great long term. Sometimes it's fun to do for the day or something. Sometimes I'll get burnt out being in here and be like, all right, let me go sit on the couch and have some music playing in the background or something like that. And that's totally fine, but you don't want that to be the everyday. Being able to close the door is great, unless you got a cat like mine that will open the door. So never stays closed. But if you live with other folks, it shows that you're working, and it stops them from coming in and interrupting. Also, just kind of gives you a separation. And then building that routine. So super important. That'll also help you be able to end your day. You kind of got your morning routine that you do every day. You do your lunch at the same time or around the same time, and then you have your like winding down routine. So if you can get into some kind of routine like that, the way I do it is I make different calendar things. So my phone's always going off, different reminders and different things. So, I've got my end of the day one, I've got a meeting one, I've got one for taking notes, catching up on projects and documentation and things like that. So it's just phone's always buzzing. So I'm like, oh, let me look at that. Oh, that's what it is. Okay, let me start that task. The other one is there could be potential different time zones. So building that routine is super important. If you got somebody that, you work closely with that lives in California, the times that you can talk to them are very limited. So you got to kind of coordinate your calendar with them in that regard. So taking into account those things, it might have to be one of your coworkers. As soon as you come in to work, you got to jump on a call with them because they're in Europe somewhere and be like, hey, like, let's talk about this. Where are you at with this? Great. Awesome. And then you get to work on that, where they were at. And then, the end of your day might be the beginning of the day for the guy in California. So you're like, hey, this is where we're at with this task, and this is what we've done. What are you done? So it just keeps the ball rolling. And yeah, again, just using that calendar, super, super important. All right, and the good imposter syndrome. So I will say, if you're not feeling this, then you are probably not pushing yourself and learning and whatnot. So get used to the feeling. It's going to be something that you're going to feel all along the way, but don't let it stop you. A big note we have here is if you wait until you feel completely ready, you'll never take the leap. And that's definitely true. Jumping into the tech industry, I'm sure we've all looked at the job requirements, and you see they've got 50 different tech stacks they want you to know, and this and that. You don't have to know every one of those. You got to know a couple of them. That's ideal that you would know them all, but they know that nobody else. So they're going to grab the ones that you know and bring you in, expect you to learn the others. So if you wait until you learn them all, you're never going to start. So just jump in, start applying to those roles. Never talk yourself out of it. Let the employer tell you that you're not prepared for it or you're not qualified. Don't read that job description and be like, oh, that's something I could never do. Within reason, obviously. Don't apply to be a surgeon if you have no training or no credentials. But on any of these junior roles, just jump in there. Like if you've got some of the skills on it, apply, give your best. Try it out, and I'll let you know. Like, hey, you're not a great fit, or you're going to land the job, and you're going to be able to do this and keep growing.
Yeah, so sort of a little bit of bragging on Code U successes. So we've had over 1,300 people graduate the program, secure a job in tech, or get a promotion and a raise in their current role or current line of work because of the skills they've learned here. Undoubtedly, there's a whole lot more than that. They just haven't told us. So please tell us. Please let us know whenever you get a job in tech, get a promotion, even if you're like, that's only kind of techie. Let us know. We want to know about it no matter what. And some of those jobs we can actually count toward helping us get more funding to continue to bring these programs to folks. But no matter what, we just want to hear about your success, right? Like that's very important to us. It's a big morale booster. It really is. So please let us know. Very important. Some next steps and priorities on your end. So make sure to practice presenting your project and prep for the capstone interview. The capstone interview, by the way, is not something to stress out about. It is a pretty relaxed thing. It's like 15 minutes, really calm, really chill. It's a really great place to show off what you've been doing and what you've learned and talk about it a little bit. Make sure that your resume is complete with the capstone project and all the skills that you picked up. Jenny Terry and Candy Hall can really help with that. They can also help you along with the employer relationship manager or me or Danny can really help you build out a career plan. Also, it's very useful. Apply to as many jobs as you possibly can. I know that it says apply to one job, but the more the better is the operative word there. It is very important to apply to a whole lot of them and actually tailor your resumes and things. Really try to do one thing each day to keep up your learning momentum and show activity on GitHub, whether you're just starting in the courses or you're ending the courses. That's important. People do look at that activity tracker if you are applying to technical roles. Eventually you will get hired. Even if it does take some time, that is okay. The best things are worth the wait, right? You will definitely get hired. And please let us know when you get hired. It's very important to us that you let us know that. But the next step's kind of for us. So we will post the student resources folder. I'll actually drop it in the chat right now, but we'll also post that whenever I put up the recording and everything. We'll post a recording in a day or two once it's ready. Make sure to add yourself to the jobs channels that interest you. We'll also send a list of the remote job boards as a takeaway with recording. I think I said that, but I'm going to say it again just for good measure. There are a lot of tech events in the tech events channel in Slack. They're great for networking and things. We also have a pinned doc with a bunch more of those events that sort of recur regularly. Definitely come and join those. Some of those I'll be going to if you're in the Central Kentucky region. Capstone project presentation is sort of the overview, functionality and use, and then future plans. Keep an eye out for, or keep an eye on, the Tech Careers newsletter. Again, you will get that once you graduate if you're not currently getting it. And then demo day participants will be informed once projects have been graded. But with that, here's kind of a quick reminder of the careers team and any Q&A, any questions, anything we didn't really go over.
We got Annette. She has a question there in chat, and that's what pathway are you doing, Annette?
I did intro to programming and then did the help desk, and now I'm starting the cybersecurity, and I hope to do the data analytics next year. I'm pretty decent with Excel, but the programming and stuff is where, I don't have any experience. I'm older. I worked at the university for a while, so would like to break into it. I'm looking for like something part-time where I can practice my skills.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's why I was asking about the help desk position, because if you did like web dev or something, it doesn't make sense to do help desk. But absolutely. Since you did the IT certifications and stuff like that, just help desk level 1, great place to get your foot in the door. I know if you're in the Louisville region, like Spectrum's always hiring. That's going to be a lot of on the phone answering the same questions, but any help desk job, that's kind of the intro role until you get a higher level under your belt. But once you get in there and they see that you're sharp and you're picking it up, you quickly advance, and then you get to more technical issues, and then help desk level 2, level 3, so on and so forth. So yeah, just any help desk pro you can get into will be great.
I will say too, for sort of the Eastern Kentucky region, there are a lot of places that hire remotely for that sort of thing. Somebody to talk to about that is Allie Rippey, but also the SOAR Eastern Kentucky Talent Network. Definitely join that. That is totally worth your time. I don't have it right here, but I can send it to you in a DM after if you'd like.
And the IT world's pretty fun. Don't be afraid to say yes to like weird sounding things, not like weird in a bad way, but like, I managed telecom, and like the way that I got that role was like saying yes to a bunch of weird IT stuff that I never wanted to go down. And then was like, oh, now I'm managing massive accounts for Kindred Healthcare and negotiating multi-million-dollar contracts. And it was pretty fun, but it just, you got to say yes to those opportunities. So definitely be open to new stuff.
Yeah, IT is great. Really is. Any other questions or anything? If not, we can call it early tonight. You can also always DM us. We will answer you back. We'll also have office hours tomorrow, and we can answer any like additional questions, or if you're like, I don't really want to ask that in front of like a crowd of people, that is totally cool. We can answer those privately as well. But yeah, you will all get a whole bunch of resources later. It'll all be in the announcements channel. So yeah, thanks a lot for coming. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, everybody. And definitely feel free to reach out anytime.